Equipment operator at Public Works. I've been working for the city for approximately 11 years, 4 of them in waste management. I'm going to try to get straight to the point to make it short. I drive truck 6961. Truck 6961 is basically 2 trucks in one. The front end is different from the back, so that's 2 trucks on one axle, thank you. The transmission on that truck, I was going down Sackadoke Lane, turning in my inmates, and a bracket on my transmission broke off, and it broke. I couldn't stop the truck. If I was on Chautauqua Road, I wouldn't have been able to make it. But I was able to get the truck to stop because I was on Sackadoke Lane, and also I have trouble with oil. I have to put oil in all the time, 4 quarts. I have to carry spare oil. I have to have that coolant monthly. My electrical system, I have what they call breaker fuses. What the problem with that is, if they go out, I'll lose brake lights, I'll lose my running lights, and I won't even know it until I pull over, the lights will be out, so nobody see me stop, no brake lights. But what I really want to say is that, I'm nervous right now, but what I really want to say is that my co-workers and I, we're valuable, and these trucks are dangerous. And I'm just asking the council to value us. As I'm a mom, I'm an aunt, I'm a sister, I'm a cousin, I'm a grandmother, and you have to value us as your workers. Council, I'm asking you to value us. I don't feel that you value me as an employee, a woman, a mother, a sister, or an aunt. I am one of a kind and cannot be replaced. And as your constituent, I am requesting that you take heed at everything that you are hearing, not just from me, but from my co-workers, and to know the needs that we need from you to help us get new trucks so we can do our jobs, and that we can do our jobs well and get them done at a good time. Thank you.
Thank you. And we do value you, ma'am, and thank you so very much for being here.
I'm going to go ahead and let James Mang sit here and show the...
They did. Good.
Good afternoon, or good evening. This is a vehicle 6934. This is one of our oldest vehicles, but it is a daily use vehicle. It is 19 years old. Yes, ma'am. This is a garbage truck. This is the inside cab. You can see the wiring that's exposed. The insulation things are breaking down. It's very difficult to try to keep all that wiring protected. This is actually on the inmate side of the vehicle. This vehicle carries a 0 value because of its age, because of its mileage. On our books, it's not worth anything. We spent $41,500 in the past 6 months to keep this truck running. We could have rented 2 trucks for 4 months to pick up garbage with that amount of money. The next slide is 6992. You'll notice that the fuse panel, back up, please. The fuse panel, you'll notice that there's a fuse block and a relay switch that are hanging out, and they run down and they plug into a junction box which runs the PCM and the back of the vehicle. All those wires are exposed. And if you go to the next slide, this is 6962. This is what happens when those wires ground out. This is a vehicle fire. It did $35,000 worth of damage to a 0 value truck that we can't afford to repair. The parts are no longer available. To have a new wiring harness built will take months. By the time they build it, it will take us another month to put it in because it's tedious work. We only have 8 mechanics that work on our heavy diesel vehicles. we can't detail one man to work on this truck for a month. We have too many other vehicles down. So it was decided this vehicle will not be repaired because of the parts cost. So it's just another vehicle that we're taking parts off to keep our fleet running. Majority of our older vehicles are Dempster vehicles. Dempster's out of service. They stopped making vehicles 7, 8 years ago. 12 years ago. The parts are no longer available. When the valve bodies go bad, the truck is no longer any good to us because we can't control any of the hydraulics. Nobody manufactures an aftermarket part. Our fleet is in sad need of repair.
Okay, our next speaker is Tony Perry. He's the lead mechanic who works on these trucks and also supervises the work that's done. And I thought that you should hear directly from the horse's mouth what kind of things they're dealing with at the mechanic shop.
Well, as Pat told you, my name is Tony Perry. I'm a lead technician 3. I've been with the Public Works Department since 1987. In the 29 years of my employment, I have never seen our fleet in such dire condition. And it's not because of maintenance, it's because of age. On a daily basis, I send trucks to a contracted metal fabricator to have repairs on stress cracks and cross members and body mounts taken care of. To give you an example of what I'm speaking on, what you're looking at here on the monitors right now is the floor of one of our Dempster garbage trucks. Now, that floor originally, when that truck was bought, was a 1/4-inch thick sheet steel, Rockwell hardness. That's some of the finest steel you can buy. Over a period of years, that garbage sliding back and forth, being pushed out of that, where's that metal thin? I have to send this thing out and spend several $1,000s to have a piece of plate put in there that's going to wear out again. And it's going to continue to wear out. There's nothing you can do about it. It's part of the industry. Can we get the next picture? Stress fractures. This is, if you raise the back end, the hopper section of the garbage truck, was standing there looking at it, that's what you're looking at right here. That stress fracture is the main body of that truck. That is what attaches it to the frame. This we only see if the driver happens to be standing back there when they're dumping trash and says, hey, I've got a big old crack in the back of my truck. It's not something that you look for on a regular basis. We're having to do it now because of the age of the trucks. This is something else that costs us thousands of dollars to get repaired by a metal fabricator because we do not have the materials to fabricate the parts in-house. This is the push-out blade, what pushes the garbage out of the body. You can see the indentions there. That's the framework of that blade. It has already worn that 1/4-inch plate so thin that it's squishing it like a can that you buy canned goods in. We're talking about 20,000 pounds of garbage that this truck carries. This is a sidewall. Sidewalls suffer the same thing. It's fair wear and tear. This piece, that's the 2 indentions you see on the wall, that's the main supporting beam that goes up and over the top of the truck and down the other side. It's done more a hole in it. As long as garbage is being pushed, it'll continue to peel that sheet of metal off the side of the truck. Then we'll start having trash dumped out on the road. And then naturally, you know what happens with that. We get a call from a citizen telling us that we left a big pile of trash in front of their house. This first picture on the left, this one's particularly alarming. The tailgate on one of those trucks weighs about 7,000 pounds. There's 2 1.5-inch hinges on each side of the truck at the top that hold that tailgate on that truck, along with several rubber hydraulic hoses. That's a crack, and it's cracked completely through on that one side. So that means there was only one 1.5-inch pin holding that entire tailgate on that truck when we found this fracture. The rest of it is fair wear and tear. Holes in the sides of the trash bodies, those are where steel pins go in. And according to the manufacturers, they are lubricated by the trash and the waste that comes off the trash. Well, you don't always get wet trash. and you end up with pins shearing off. Where some of those pins end up, we don't know. This is the result we get at the shop. I did want to enlighten you. Another issue we must examine is the ability or inability to find parts for these trucks. After 10 years, just like your automobile, the manufacturers no longer stock parts on the shelf. The parts go to a central warehouse. Once they run out or go zero balance to that central warehouse, they're not restocked because it's nothing that they're making money on. That's the problem we're running into here. We had an occurrence where we needed a wiring harness for a truck. The manufacturer found us a wiring harness in Las Vegas, Nevada. It took 4 days to get that harness from a central warehouse out of Las Vegas, Nevada. It took another 4 days for us to remove the old harness, put the new harness in, and get the truck on the road. Shortly after that, we needed that same exact harness for another truck. Wasn't one to be found in the country. Manufacturer said, "You bought the last one we knew of that existed." I said, "Well, I got to have it. I've got a truck down. What do I do?" Well, we'll check with the manufacturer. 6 to 8 week build time once their vendor accepted the order. So that's a truck that we're going to be without for 12, 13 weeks before we can get the parts in and get it back on the road. Major engine overhauls, engine replacements for these trucks, you can start at $20,000 and go up. You cannot buy a diesel engine for less than $20,000. And that's our smallest, cheapest engine. Most of our trucks, we run Cummins and Caterpillar engines in them. We prefer Cummins. We get better life out of them. They're a little bit easier to work on. Most all of our trucks are exceeding the 150,000 mile mark. And this is some grueling inner city operation on and off road at the landfill. Having to travel through the trash takes its toll on these trucks. On my team, I have 8 technicians to accomplish repairs of these trucks, in addition to providing support to the other agencies that we got out there. On a weekly basis, we usually end up with 2 to 3 sanitation vehicles that are left over after a Wednesday of repair. We have every Wednesday, the sanitation trucks are turned in on Tuesday night. We have all day Wednesday to repair them. We end up with 2 or 3 trucks left over every Thursday morning because the severity of the repairs was greater than we anticipated. We're at a critical point where the majority of our fleet is coming to a point where it's structurally unsafe to do its job, let alone be operated on our streets. We currently have 4 vehicles that have already been turned in for salvage. I've been robbing parts off of them for about the last 5 months. When we take them to public auction, we'll probably get scrap value out of them, and that's it. And that's not going to be a lot of money. For the last 5 years, the team that I work with, we're like hamsters in a wheel. We can pretty much tell you exactly which trucks are going to be coming back to the shop. And it's the trucks that we've got that are 17, 18, 19 years old. Because we're putting them together with baling wire to keep them going. And we've got to do something, or we're not going to have enough equipment to do the job that we need to do. We have a total of 52 pieces of equipment over the next few years that need to be replaced. And we're just asking you to look at what we're working with. See what you can do. We've got to come up with an answer. Do I have any questions?
Thank you, Tony.
Well, and thank you. That was an excellent presentation. Mayor Pro Tem.
I just want to say to the employees, thank you all for coming. Because your director can stand up and talk till she's blue in the face. And it doesn't go as much of an impact as it does with you all talking. Because people that's watching you on TV are your neighbors, they're your church members, they're people you see all the time. And they know you, so there's no reason that you have to sit up and make up stuff. And I have always said, pictures are worth 1,000 words. So, for the public watching this, they have to know we're going to be in serious trouble if we don't do something. We're already in trouble now, but it's going to be serious trouble real soon. So I just want to say, don't feel bad. Thank you for coming, and thank you for staying here to see this through.
It's amazing, truly. Counselor Barnes. Oh, and we do need to get to the recommendations. I think Pat has some proposed solutions.
I have a couple more speakers, and then I have some,
Who's not finished?
at least some figures. I'm not finished.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We've got other counselors. I just want them to know. Certainly, Pops, if you'd like to make your comments now. She was going to continue on.
I can do it later.
Okay. All
Okay.
right, go ahead.
As I said, I had multiple people who would like to speak, and I cut it down to 5, but I really would appreciate your patience. So our next speaker is Josh Hunt, who's a supervisor now, but worked our trucks for a good long time. Josh?
Good evening, good evening. Yeah, I had a long written thing, but I think I'm going to not go through all that. Ms. Pat made mention of the steering column breaking. I was that truck. I was that truck driver. The steering column broke. I collided with a parked vehicle. Luckily, it was parked. And it caused considerable damage, not only to the city truck, but also to private property. At the time when I hit that truck, I had 2 inmates on the back of my truck. If I was traveling at any higher speed, those inmates would have been slung off the truck. We're dealing with another injury claim from them. That truck could have been oncoming. It was in the left lane. We could have had another, a serious head-on collision. So yeah, I would like to, let you guys understand that where we're coming from isn't just from, we're just bringing you a story, but, we're actually have something behind this. Fast forward now, I'm a supervisor. I no longer have to drive the trucks, but I find myself every day having to put my people, my coworkers in those trucks that are unsafe to drive. They really are unsafe. They're faulty wiring. I mean, the metal is bad. It's in bad shape. And I can't honestly sit here and tell you that it's, when I look them in the face and tell them to drive that truck, if you get in an accident, I couldn't look your family in the face and tell you, hey, he had a job to do. And I made him I made him jump in that truck today. Or I made her jump in that truck. So these people have children, and they have families. And I think that's what we need to look at when we're looking at not only a monetary value upon putting these trucks on the road as far as new trucks, we need to put a family stamp on it. And I don't want that to be a black eye upon the city. If we get in a bad major accident and we wind up taking someone's life, that's the part. That's where I come in at. That's where my faults lie. I mean, I don't want just to tell the city, hey, we need new trucks, buy them. There's more to it than that. There is a family stamp that we need to put on here. And that's what I'd like to say.
Thank you, Josh. Next is Alfonso Denson.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Councilman and City Manager. I'm not going to take too much time. My name is Alfonso Denson. I'm here on behalf of the Sanitation Division concerning vehicle maintenance and replacing the trucks. That truck you were watching on that screen up there, that was my truck with the back side of it fell out. That truck was down for 2 months. When my truck is down, that means I got to take a truck from yard waste. That means yard waste is going to have to work Wednesday or either Saturday to catch up on their tasks. The maintenance shop works on these trucks the best they can do, but they know me at the shop because they call me Mr. Tap Man. Because every week I'm at the shop, something on my truck. It's not that the truck is old, 150,000 miles on it, 12 years old, you know, and anybody know if you got a car, you get that car, what, 3 to 6 years, what you do? You trade it in for new. That's the same thing we say. It's time to trade these trucks in and get some new ones because what? Wear and tear, and we drive on a daily basis, you're going to have problems with them. So you got to get rid of them. So thank you for your time, and God bless everybody.
Thank you. Kenneth Johnson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Kenneth Johnson. I'm a waste equipment operator. I've been working in sanitation for 9 years. We are in dire need of new vehicles. My experience with our vehicles haven't been great. I just had one instance to where just showing the normal wear and tear on the vehicle, and then some things that is just not normal. One evening I was heading to the landfill to go dump, and I was getting on J.R. Allen heading west. I just got off the Schaumburg Road exit and felt the truck just started shaking. But as soon as I got onto the highway, my left tire, lug nuts, rim, everything attached, just broke off, took off in the left lane, and it went through the median, went all the way down to Moon Road, jumped over all the lanes of traffic, didn't hit anything, but at that rate of speed, it could have easily killed anybody if it would have made contact with it. But the problem came from just metal-to-metal contact to where you really can't even explain how that happened, but it was just because the vehicle was just that old. And I'm just saying this as a family man myself. I had to do a whole lot of thinking when I went home that evening. First of all, I was thankful that I made it home, but just thinking if somebody else would have got hurt during that, then, you know, some things you can't put a monetary value on, and knowing that you were just trying to do your job, but you ended up hurting or harming somebody because the equipment that you're driving isn't safe. And that's basically it for me, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you. And lastly, Vicki Carday.
I want to thank you all for allowing us to do this, first of all, Mayor, Council. The truck that Jane Main said was zero value, that burned, was mine. And I really appreciated that zero value because I didn't have to go to the shop to see Tony every day. Now I go to see Tony every day because the vehicle that I do drive, 6951, 16 years old, spare truck for 1107. I am constantly at the shop for something. The other day it took me, my day starts at sanitation at 5:30 because I go out to the camp to pick up the inmates, and then I start my work day. Well, to get to work at 5:30 a.m. and not be able to get to your route until 11 a.m. is very frustrating because of the vehicle in which you're driving. It was at the shop on the ready line, but when I went to get it started, it wouldn't start. I ended up walking back over to the fleet yard with my inmates to get another spare truck that wasn't really working. So I called a seasoned driver who's familiar with the truck, because now you got to know the combinations in order to get these vehicles to work. And that driver talked me through it. I managed to get it to work, and off to work I went. But it was very frustrating. Can you imagine getting to work and you're a data entry programmer and your computer don't work, and that's what you do, so you go get another one and it doesn't work and you're just there? I come to work to work. All I have to sell is my labor. And that's what I do, but I can't do that with the vehicle in which I'm utilizing. Don't call 62 zero value. It had a lot of value to me. It really did, because I kept it running. I kept it in good condition, considering what the mechanics could do and the equipment that they had to work with. I kept it going. But now what I'm dealing with now, 6951, oh my God. that's a job just to get up and get motivated to go see that truck. But that's the best thing I got right now. But I wish you all would consider that for us, and thank you all for your time.
Okay. Can we go back to the...
Shoes on the truck with the cop fire?
Okay. When I've been looking at sources of funds, suggestions I can make to you, I can tell you that I can't come up with much else than talking about a fee increase. We being all of these people and my staff have spent a lot of time looking for ways to be more effective and more efficient, to stretch things out as much as we can, and we've kept things going for a good long time. We've run out of those solutions, and as you can see from some of these pictures, we're not going to have any choice but to start parking some of these vehicles. And as we park them, we're going to be more and more unable to handle the job that we need to do, which is to pick up not only all the trash, but all the recycling, all the yard waste, all the bulky waste, all the things that we've committed to the citizens to take care of. So when I started here, I came to you and said, if you really want to pay all of the costs associated with integrated waste, and that is all of the costs to do with landfills, operation, expansion, closure, post-closure, all of those things, if you want to do a total replacement of your equipment, which you should be doing on a regular basis, we needed, at that time I told you, a fee of $22.50. I know that there is a lot of political concerns and considerations that go with the fee increase. And I'm not suggesting that that is what you need to do. I'm going to give you a couple of facts, and then you are going to have to make that hard decision yourself. If we inflate that $22.50 to today's prices, we should be looking at a fee of about $30 a month. If you want to look at the cost, not worrying about the landfill, and by the way, I am coming back in 2 to 4 weeks to answer all the questions about landfill updates and what have you. It's just too much for tonight. If we want to do replacement on a regular basis, that is garbage trucks every 7 years, which is their anticipated life, landfill equipment every 5 years, and grab-alls and some of the smaller stuff every 12 years, we would need to increase the fee by $6.50 a month, and that would take it up to $21.50. That will not take care of landfills, but it will give us a replacement of our equipment on a regular basis. And this is assuming we're going to do a lease purchase for all of these, not simply go buy, because that's $27 billion, and we're not going to have that all at one time. Million. I'm sorry.
For that price difference, we ought to just go ahead and buy it.
And I did a long, hard look at kind of what's the bare minimum we could live with, because I understand the political constraints. We could do with $2 per month, starting as soon as we can. Once we purchase the equipment, we will see savings of at least $500,000 for maintenance and repair, because we'll be replacing 35 to 40 of the worst trucks. We'll see a significant decrease in the amount we spend for fuel. If we can put that money back into an account that will go toward lease purchase again, and make sure it doesn't just get lost in the general budget. If we do that, in the second year, we could get 10 to 15 more pieces of equipment, and we would be moving toward at least taking care of the worst of the fleet. However, that is going to give us a replacement of every 12 to 13 years, not what's recommended. Now, and that's at current prices, of course, and they'll go up over the years, so there will be inflationary factors. But that would, at least, at a minimum, get us a start.
Pat, we have a question from Councilor Huff.
Yes, sir.
Quick question. You had 66 trucks,
Yes.
52 critical.
That's correct.
So is that difference new trucks already?
I'm sorry?
Do we have the difference of that 14 new trucks in the fleet?
we have some that are 2 to 3 years old, and we have some that are about 7 years old that are about to click over into being too old.
Representative, that
So-
represents the difference here?
That's correct.
Okay, okay, okay.
The 52 are the ones that are so old and so fragile, and that we spend so much time repairing, and with those kind of conditions, that they're the ones that we just don't know from day to day what they're going to do.
What's the,
52.
okay, 52 is our number. And the other truck's lifespan right now, the 14 or so?
The 14, I think 6 of them are 3 to 4 years old, and the balance are 6 to 7 years old.
So those are the only ones we consider
Those are
safe?
the only ones we consider to be
Safe.
safe.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So you could say that they're overage. If they're 7 years old, I think there were 7 last year, and they're going to be 8 this year. But they're not so worn out that they present a major safety hazard, and we're not anticipating that they're going to have some kind of major malfunction. So, that being said, if you are going to consider... That's okay.
What's the approximate value of one truck?
$225,000 to $250,000. And I'm hoping if we make a large purchase, we can get a better price and extend that money a little bit. And one thing I hadn't mentioned, and I really want to say this too, on behalf of the staff here, most of those old trucks do not have air conditioning or heating. And summer times in Columbus, when you're out there 8 to 10 hours, is pretty grim. And if you think about those pictures you saw of those cabs and imagine yourself climbing in there with 2 inmates and spending the day with no heat or air conditioning, it's pretty uncomfortable work conditions. Now, we had done charts about 4 years ago, and I had my folks start making calls to see what other people were charging for their fees. And I can tell you most of them, as you can see, is significantly higher than what we're charging. All of them now limit, the ones we contacted, limit their trash to 1 container. It's got to be in the can, and it's no more than will fit in there. They don't pick up anything more than that. Some of them do recycling and not. Some of them do yard waste and not. If you want to get rid of your yard waste, you contact a local hauler, and they take it away. And some of them do bulk waste or not. Savannah actually does yard waste, but only if they're in biodegradable bags. So we've got a lot of different programs and a lot of different approaches. But we're looking at $30, $28, $25, and of course Macon Bibb is down around 20, but we're at 15 right now, just to give you some comparison.
Sorry.
Is that difference in price with Macon Bibb because it's a 65-gallon can?
You know, I probably is, and they don't do, well, they do recycling. I don't know why their price is lower. We were just checking on
Yeah.
what was being charged.
They just went through consolidation, so I guess they're filling their way through. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So everybody else is at 96, 95 gallon?
Yeah, 96, 95, 96 gallon.
Okay. Has there been any? Yeah, that's recycle bin size?
That is the size of our recycle bins, yeah.
Okay.
We have both 65 and 95, but the 95 is the big ones that we've got mostly out.
Had there been any discussion on how to replace the fleet and add the 95-gallon cans if we're increasing fees?
If we're increasing fees and you want to add more cans, I can certainly come back with a proposal. I do want to talk about purchasing some additional cans as part of my conversation tonight, but I wanted to make sure that I'd answered your questions about fleet first.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Then
Not
let me
this time.
say thank you very much for coming, and have a good evening, all of you. Thank you.
But again, thank you all for being here, and I hope that the citizens are watching. You know, I know you all get complaints. I certainly get complaints when the trash is in the street, when it's late, council gets them too. Where are they? It's 1 o'clock, my trash isn't picked up. At 6 o'clock, my trash isn't picked up. I hope that what they've heard today makes them understand why we could not stay at two-time-a-week household pickup. My God, we couldn't do that. And why it is still such a challenge for you all to field the trucks needed to service this great city. So we appreciate you being here, and we're going to work hard for a solution. Thank you. Yes, let's see, we've got Pops.
I'd like to ask Bonnie, did you go through Sears Woods?
Yes, I did.
Sharon Bunn loves you. Let me just tell you, I don't know how many times she tells me, oh, I saw Bonnie. She loves you with a capital L. I just wanted to tell you that I finally get a chance to meet you face to face because she talks about you all the time.
Thank you.
All right, we have, let's see, we've got Councilor Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thank you to all the employees that showed up. And I want to apologize for allowing you guys to get in those trucks. Pat does a great job. Pat does a great job of coming in and telling us that we need new trucks. But I'll be honest with you, that's the first time I have seen the photographs and I've seen the way those trucks look. And I've heard the stories from the drivers and some of the dangerous situations. There's no excuse for that. You shouldn't have to step into a dangerous situation to go try to pick up refuse from people's houses. So for me personally, I want to apologize. I can promise you I don't know how, but we're going to have to try to address this. It may result in cuts elsewhere, but this has got to be a top priority, I think, during a budget session. So thank you, and again, I'm sorry we put you in that position.
That's right. Yeah. Let's see, we've got Mimi Woodson.
I also want to say, I'm sorry for what you're going through, and Gary and I were having a conversation, and sometimes you have to see it like this to understand it. But then, too, you got to understand it's just like your family budget. You got to decide, am I going to buy the tennis shoes at Walmart, or am I going to buy the All-Star? What do I need? My thing is to staff is that, can we get some different options on how we can, pay for this stuff? And for the drivers and the employees, talk to your neighbors. Let them know what you're going through. Because when we start talking about increases, they're going to start complaining. Remind them that you're their brother, their family, their daddy, their brother, and your safety comes first. And I think that's very important. I wish I hit that $1 million lottery. We would have had a bunch of new trucks. But that's not possible. But Pam, we do need to look at different ways about it. And Pat, I'm always been for the trucks because I've always fight every year, try to get something on there for you guys. But we really need to make this a campaign. We really need to make it a campaign where the citizens understand the importance of if we have to go to an increase and something else to make it happen. When it comes home, people understand. And the only way people are going to understand is by the employees who have to go through this, who put their lives in danger to give them a service, for them to understand. This can be your husband, can be your child driving this truck. What would it cost you to give up another $250, buying you a soda or a Starbucks coffee or something to let us get a vehicle that we can service you and be fair? The same way that presentation was done here, we need to go out and do it on the streets. And I just need to know how we can fund it. And I've always been an advocate, and I always will be. Your safety does come first, and thank you. Thank you for putting your life at risk. You're not even public safety, and your life is at risk, just like theirs every day.
Sure.
I'd like to say that if you look at the top 10 most dangerous jobs in the country, trash collection is number 4. And that's under the best of circumstances.
And
it's far more dangerous than police and fire, although they face their own kind of challenges. But if you think about that, we are adding another factor here that really is of concern.
You know, and before you said that, I was going to mention when we used to travel, we used to go to GMA and NLC, and we go to our classes and the different things. That was one of the key things that they always talked to us about, that we always focus on other departments and we very rarely focus on public works and the importance of it. So you're preaching to the choir. We just need more choir members. And in order to do that, we need your help. We need your help in coming up with ideas, encouraging the community. This is something we need to do. Because you know as well as I do, and everyone here, the minute you said that, I'm pretty sure I got about 15, 20 calls. You know, but you have to do like you did today. And I hope, Mayor, we put it on CCG. You know, we do a CCG program and say, look, this is where we're up. We need the community support. Because when this community says they're going to do something, they do it. You just got to convince them that it's the right thing to do.
Well, Mr. City Manager, if you can get a link of just this presentation thus far, we can actually post it on social media and say, this is why your trash pickup is late.
Mm-hmm. And
let
this
them
is what
see.
we need from you.
Okay. All right, Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. City Manager, this is the kind of project that will be covered with the GMA lease program, right?
But we have to service the lease, but yeah, it could be
Yeah,
serviced with a GM.
that's one option, yeah.
That's what I said, bring some options for it.
But I think Pat's got some options. Do you have some lease options?
Well, I'm assuming with all of these that we would do leasing. I talked to Pam, the finance deputy city manager, and we have an existing lease purchase finance mechanism already available that went through procurement process at one time. So that is definitely, I think, is going to have to be the way we go, because if we're trying to just go purchase 40 trucks, we're talking millions of dollars, $12 million or whatever. And if, so lease purchase means we have to have a continuing and consistent source of funds in order to support those purchases. And lease purchase is, I think, probably the best alternative.
All right, that's all the questions we have this evening.
All I wanted to say is, Councilor Woodson, I'm glad you said something about a taxpayer. I live in Columbus. I understand the asking for the $2 because I'm on the inside. What I want to convey to y'all is the taxpayer's going to grumble for a little while. Then it'll subside and go away. But every time his garbage doesn't get picked up, he's going to be calling you on your phone, wanting to know, why did that truck not get my garbage today? And that's going to be a recurring thing. And they're going to be going like, do I get part of my waste fund back because you didn't pick my garbage up today?
Oh, I'm on your side. That's why I said, that's why I said that. We need everybody talking about it. I agree with you. If you were to tell me you want to raise mine right now, I would say, go ahead. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying just like it's a political thing. And the only way we can help fight that politic is, y'all, this being on social media, this saying, this could be a family member. This is what we need. All it takes is $2.50. One day you don't go to McDonald's, Burger King, or Pizza Hut. That's all it takes.
Thank you. Thank you all.
I was asked, I think I better wait.
Pat, I think there may be more questions about the lease purchase. What's the maintenance cost that we would save if we did the lease purchase?
We could.
Or the lease, I don't know about purchase, but whatever it is you
Well, a
propose.
lease or a lease purchase.
Okay.
We'd look at both of those. If we were able to replace 35 to 40 trucks in the first year. Those would be the worst of our fleet. We spent $1.1 million last year. The budget was about $954,000. And so if we were able to replace those, we could reduce that budget by a good 50%. We could move $500,000 out of that and move it into that lease purchase account and use it to lease additional equipment or trucks. The same thing applies with fuel. I estimate we could save $340,000, $350,000 on fuel if we were to replace those old gas guzzlers that give us less than a mile a gallon with trucks that get 6 miles to the gallon. We should be able to, and I'm trying to be conservative in assuming what we would save, but we would clearly save significantly for both those items. In addition, when we started out with Fort Benning, we rented 2 trucks, and we haven't let those go because we're so desperately short of trucks most of the time. And we could eliminate that pretty quickly once we had new trucks, and that would also add another 3, 4, 5 vehicles if those funds were moved permanently into the lease account to pay the lease payments. Fuel, vehicle repair, that $30,000 to replace an engine or whatever. Between that, all of those, we could have close to $1 million that we could move over into and apply them toward a lease.
How would you repair the trucks if you moved the money over?
Talking about once we get the new vehicles on place and the old vehicles are out, I'm talking about year 2, so to speak, not year 1. Till we get the vehicles in place and get rid of the old ones, we're not going to be able to save any money on maintenance. Once we get 35 or 40 new trucks, then we will be doing, kind of routine maintenance and changing oil and what have you, but we could make a permanent move of half those funds into leasing instead of repairing.
Are all the repairs being done in-house?
No, we contract some out because we simply, especially as Tony pointed out, a lot of the metal, the welding, the fabricating, we don't have that expertise, and we spend a pretty substantial amount. I think I don't have an exact number, but it was in the neighborhood of $250,000 just on fabricating pieces of metal to put on the back of those trucks to keep them going over several years. But nonetheless, we've spent a lot of money on that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. We have Councilor Davis.
Director Bigler, just over the last 2 years, how many vehicles were purchased, garbage trucks purchased out of the budget? 0? And we've known about this for how long?
I'm sorry?
And we've known about this problem for how long?
It has been getting progressively worse, but we've known about it
How
for a long time.
many garbage trucks are going to be budgeted this year?
Unless there's a source of funds identified.
Well, but to go back to his question about how long we've known about it, we've known about it for
12 years.
all of my years as city manager. And we've brought, I don't even want to get into how many times we've come to talk about that, So, I mean, we've known about this. We just couldn't do anything. We couldn't afford to do anything about it. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we need 28 lawnmowers in Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there, yeah.
Every department standing and go through the same inventory. I mean, it's something we don't enjoy going through, but we need to
Go through it. I mean, but it's still, it gets to the bottom line is how are we going to fund these things? I mean, we don't have a big pot of gold back here that we're having to be talked out of spending, and we just don't have the money.
Well, but just to answer that question, we've dealt with integrated waste fund, which is supposed to be an enterprise fund. But we've not been able to make the progress that we wanted to make there to make it self-sufficient as an enterprise fund.
How many times have I said it from this seat right here that over the last 3 or 4 years that the capital matter is going to come back? It's the monster in the corner going to jump out on us.
Well, but this is no surprise to me, because, you know, it's integrated waste, and
I'm just saying, you know, I sit here, I question, did we miss opportunities? Madam Mayor, the $2 increase here, are the citizens to expect that in your budget coming up?
I don't know. I don't know. Council could go ahead and make that adjustment right now. We don't have to wait for budget. But I don't know about that. I have to look, as Councilor Allen said, at the whole thing. I know, you know, it is a good cautionary tale. I agree with you, because for at least 12 years, as a citizen prior to being mayor, I sat and listened to pitches to raise the fee, the garbage pickup fee, for years. And I know when we went back to look at it several years ago, there were 9 or 10 presentations that had been made to council
12
over the years.
Yeah.
Over the years. So this isn't a recent problem. It was always something that I think the judgment was made not to raise the cost to citizens, which is fine. But that maintenance of buying as you go was never funded, and so now we're stuck with 52 trucks we need to replace, and we have no money. And so, you know.
And look, we're going to have another conversation on this, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But everybody knows that the danger when you do your budgets, zero capital admitted in your budget. You balance your budget off of zero capital, you can't survive in business. You just can't. So, Mr. City Manager, funding is the issue, like Council Allen said, and what, you know, the request came tonight, which I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for the employees taking their time and coming up here and sharing with us. I mean, we've known this for a while. It's not like tonight's something new. We've known it for a while. And, you know, which concerns me. But I've always said you're dealing with 56,000 people out there. And I've always fundamentally had an issue with 56,000 people when we boast of having how many in the city?
202,000?
202,000. We've never even, what I'd like to challenge the administration is to go and find some creative ways to find what they're requesting and what they're asking for. You've got 200-something thousand people, that there's got to be a way that people, every citizen, I can make the argument that every citizen touches something that goes to that landfill. So should everybody be accountable in carrying this burden, or is it just the 56,000? I think there's probably some creative ways that we need to look at versus just going right back to the 56,000. Whether it's lease, whether it's, you know, Councilor Henderson and I, you remember having that conversation? Well, several of us had that conversation when we did the Lost. The one component we forgot was public services. Remember that? We put Parks and Recs, we put Parks and Recs and infrastructure. You know, I'd like to even put that out on the table as an option to look at using that money for infrastructure. And can, Mr. City Attorney, we make that case that these garbage trucks are in infrastructure? Citizens have already been kind enough to give the city an extra penny. So I'm not sure. Maybe there's a way that you may fund it with that penny in the future. Somebody may have to do with a little less, but if this is what we heard, the concern with the amount of money we have, the city has to operate on, then you got to figure out a way to do it. And you know, another problem that this council is going to have a hurdle in this administration. I'm going to put you on full warning here. Last year we told the citizens we actually took away services, and we told them we were going to save a lot of money. And we had that conversation about increasing fees, but nobody wanted to talk about it. But we told them how important recycling and other things were, and we took services away. Now they're going to be having a hard time accepting that you're going to be coming back and asking for more money. So I guess we're going to have that conversation, but I would challenge the administration to find some creative ways not just a lease, not just a fee, maybe a fee for all, maybe a user fee, maybe a transient fee. There's got to be a way for people to contribute as a whole. So I would like to see all the resources, the revenue or the funding resources available out there, if we can, Mayor, before we get to a point where it's just inserted in a budget or we have to figure out how to deal with it.
Well, the administration's made no decision on this. I'm not necessarily bringing this back in any sort of fee increase. If council requests me to, I'll look into it, but I need some direction from these votes of council that we'll have to vote on initially. So that I think that's what the discussion's about. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
With that, you want to mention quickly recycling carts, and then we're going to move on, and you'll have to come back with what.
And I won't go through the slides. You have the information with some numbers and revenue in front of you. Last year, I came to you and asked for $150,000 for a software program that was for GPS to put on our equipment in the landfill to get us better compaction, which the compaction is absolutely necessary to extend the life of our landfill. We started the RFP process, we got into it, and actually realized after talking with all the vendors that it wouldn't do all the things we wanted it to do. And I was not going to spend $150,000 on something that didn't do what I thought it ought to do. So that money is still sitting in a capital fund. $150,000 will buy us another 3,125 carts. We still need more carts. Now, we had 2,500 in the budget, and I scrounged out of my budget and bought another 1,000. We're getting about 250 requests a week from citizens for the big recycling carts. There's still very much interest in getting those out there. So I would like a nod from you, to go ahead and use that $150,000 to purchase more carts. I think it's a good investment. It's kind of my next highest priority, and it continues to improve that program and increase revenues. So if I don't have any objections, I'm going to move forward with a purchase.
I don't see any questions or comments here.
I had one other topic that
We want to delay your next topic.
That's fine.
Because we've got some people here, and I would delay this one, but they're here for the Aquatic Center.
Okay.
And because they've been waiting so long, I'm going to call on Dr. Worsley to
Okay.
go ahead and
Councilor Davis has...
Quickly, Mr. City Manager, just in addition to what I just stated, we just had the transportation, Madam Mayor, what was it called, the forum that we just had? Well, we just had the GDOT Transportation Forum at the Chamber, and they were talking about the destination fee and House Bill 170, something, one of those numbers. But, they talked about some additional monies coming into our area. And if that is the case...
Oh, that was LMIG. He was talking about LMIG.
Well, that's LMIG. If we're getting additional monies and we can request additional monies, then the infrastructure money for road projects coming out of the lost money could possibly use to fund and look, you may have to entertain taking out some debt. You may have to entertain that.
And let me say this about the lost infrastructure money. We, in the presentations to the public, we put a definition for infrastructure, Councilor Thomas, you may remember, in that presentation, and we defined it. And the definition, Deputy City Manager Hodge is showing me, definition infrastructure says roads and bridges, stormwater and flood abatement projects, technology, capital projects to include construction, maintenance, and renovation of buildings and facilities to support quality of life improvements and to house governmental operations. And so vehicles would not qualify under that definition, of course, but that's council could change that if
I mean, I'd ask the city attorney on that, but that's kind of what I'm suggesting as another idea.
Yeah.
Versus going to the 56,000, would it be a better option, and would the blessings be given to do that? I don't know, but I'm just saying we need to look at a lot of different options. Councilor Woodson said the same thing, and I threw out a few.
Understand.
Thank you, sir.
Gotcha. Director Worthing.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. I want to give you our 11th presentation of the Columbus Aquatic Center. And before I jump into the slides that you have before you, I want to give you a little information and also invite two of my colleagues to come and share their perspective as well. Just want to let you know, to keep the Columbus Aquatic Center at its current operation comes at a cost, and the cost to operate cannot totally be analyzed just by looking at the budget numbers that you have before you. With that being said, I'm going to ask Holly and Becky to come forward and give their honest perspective of what it's been like over the last 9 months to be there working dual roles or quadruple roles sometimes as they work in the Columbus Aquatic Center. And then I'll come back to the podium and go back over some of the slides that we have. Holly and Becky.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak with you tonight. We're not strangers, I think, to most anybody sitting here tonight. Together, we have about 35 years' experience with the Parks and Recreation Department here in Columbus. Please understand, we do our regular jobs, we get our regular jobs done, but we also run the Aquatic Center. There are no other staff at the Aquatic Center other than the part-time staff. We are the full-time staff there. We come in, and I apologize, I'm sick, Becky's sick, so I apologize for my voice tonight, but we come in when we're sick. We have no alternative. We want to make sure the facility is a success. It's very important to us personally and as part of our department, and so we see the need and the reason for why we come in every day, and we make sure we get it all done. But it comes at a cost to us personally, and sometimes, you know, we make mistakes or we make small errors because you're trying, as someone earlier tonight said, you're the hamster in the wheel. You're trying to get everything done, and it just seems like every day there's more and more things to do. We cancel family plans at the last minute because we have to work. I, in particular, I worked Christmas Day because we had an emergency at the Aquatic Center, and if I hadn't come in, then the next day the building wouldn't have opened because we had a power failure. Not a big deal, but it was Christmas Day. But those are the kind of things that we do that we don't brag about, and please understand that's not why we're here, but just to give an insight as to what goes on. We're committed to getting the job done regardless. To give you a kind of a snapshot or an eye view of an average week, last Thursday we had a swim meet for Georgia High School, regional meet for the high school teams to be able to make it to state. Friday night we had our Learn to Swim graduation. These are all things that we have to be at because we run the facility. Friday night I had to come to the pool at 12:30 because the alarm went off. There was a problem with one of the doors at the facility. So I had to come in at 12:30 to the pool. Sunday, we had another problem with the alarm. Becky came in before the facility ever opened to deal with the alarm. Monday night, we had a task force meeting, which was last night. Tonight, obviously, we're here with you. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of this week, we'll have another swim meet. And so for Becky alone, just from yesterday through Sunday, she'll work 82 hours. And that's sort of what we're kind of used to at this point, but it's really hard. And so we just wanted to take a moment to share that, to give you a better insight, because we are the only two staff over there. And I say that in meaning we're the only two full-time staff to run the facility. And that's in addition to our regular jobs. And I know many of you, because I see you at special events, I see you at functions that we both work at. So you know that we don't just run the Aquatic Center. So, okay. Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Holly and Becky. They gave you a snapshot and were somewhat modest in their details. And as they did say, the Aquatic Center is not the only facility that they operate. Many of us went to the MLK Unity celebration. You may have gone in the past to the Bicentennial Christmas Parade, or perhaps even the Veterans Day Parade. Well, Holly in particular heads up those special events that you may have seen her at or Becky at as well. So we want to give you a snapshot of what they deal with in addition to the Columbus Aquatic Center. So we might paint that picture for you. That, in other words, help is needed not yesterday, not tomorrow, but actually 3 months ago. I want to also pause at this time to recognize our task force members that are here. They're not all here, but we have both co-chairs that are here today. Behind me, we have Mr. Brian Abeda. He's co-chair of the Columbus Aquatic Center Task Force, and Ms. Rebecca Lanford, who's also the co-chair. We have member Mary Sherman with the Sports Council. She's on the task force, and Ms. Gina Webb, who represents on the task force with the Friends of the Nanatorium. So we appreciate them being here today as well. Now let me jump into the slides that you have on your paper. Some of this information, again, on the slides that we'll cover won't be new information, as this is more of a recap of what we've talked about. Again, I've mentioned earlier, this is our 11th presentation to you regarding the Columbus Aquatic Center. The current budget that is allocated for the Columbus Aquatic Center is $825,000. The expenses to operate this facility is $1,242,000, given a balance of $416,000 as a shortfall. The annual budget reflects what is needed to operate the Columbus Aquatic Center, as I stated before in the past, at 89 hours per week, and this will include all staff that will be needed to operate the facility, such as the division manager, aquatics facility manager, program supervisor, and facility maintenance technician. The current budget reflects also the $170,000 that is covered with utilities, water, and electricity. The last time we met, I promised you that we will talk a little bit about the year-to-date expenses, and these year-to-date expenses are July 1, 2015, going through December 2015, and of course, the expense of January of 2016 to June 2016 would be projected. And this is at the current level of service, meaning when I say current level of service, myself, Becky, Holly, and the part-time staff is current level of service. Here you're looking at, in the left-hand far column, personnel, operations, and utility. As you can see, personnel is pretty much going to be the same across the board from July to June, as the personnel didn't change or won't change currently. When you start looking at operations, you may, and utilities is going to be pretty much, it's going to change somewhat as well, because utilities fluctuate. Sometimes the bills are higher one month than the other, and sometimes they may not necessarily get to us on time, so they may duplicate or add, not duplicate, but add to the following month as well. And in terms of operations, we may look and see, well, why projected expenses might be higher one month than the other. Well, there are several reasons. Of course, we have NAI that's coming up, but the main reason is because the first 6 months of operations, we have been very conservative about our spending. Things that we need to purchase may not necessarily gotten purchased, because we were in hopes that we were just in this facility on an interim basis, and that we would be moving on perhaps to the third-party management company, but we did not. So now we're in here in January, and we are playing catch-up, so to speak. We're needing to purchase things to replace equipment for some of the equipment that needs to be replaced, such as lifeguard stands, for an example, and some of the other things that are rusted and tarnishing that we would need to replace. One of the major things that's going to be needed to replace, we've tinkered on, and unfortunately there's no more help for it, so when it goes, it's going to be the boiler. The boiler at the facility will need to be replaced, so we have to make sure that there's monies allocated for that when that happens, and we hope that that does not happen during one of our large meets, or any meet for that matter. Should that happen, we take parameters to order parts in advance to have those on hand, which you already have done, to make sure that we have those parts and the personnel on hand as well for overtime and so forth. So advertising dollars plays a part in that as well. We want to make sure that we go for what we are advertising the facility to draw in more customers into the facility as well. So that gives you a summary and an idea of what the year-to-date expenses are and what the projected expenses are to be in the next few months ahead of us. The next slide looks at revenue for FY15 and projected revenue for FY16. The actual revenue for FY15 was $215,000. And the old projection that we had for FY16 was $215,000 as well. However, our new projection for FY16 is $167,139, which is a decrease of about $47,800. Well, why might that be the case? Well, I'm happy you asked. Let me tell you, with no permanent staff, you can't expect too much. Current staff includes the Parks and Recreation, Finance Manager, and the Assistant Director, and part-time staff. Decrease in the revenues is due to limited programs. Of course, you can't have programs if you don't have staff. Limited programs, as I said, due to the lack of full-time staff to manage those assets. When you start looking at year-to-date revenue, as we go to the next slide, this is July through December, July 2015 through December 2015, and projected revenue January 2016 through June 2016. Again, this is current level service with the 2.5 people that we have in terms of operating the Columbus Aquatic Center. Down the left-hand column, the items that we're looking at is gate. Gate consists of admissions as well as memberships, concessions that we take in, any rentals from birthday parties or swim meet rentals, program fees that we might have, and we haven't had those in quite some time since last year when our swim lessons concluded, because we don't have people to be able to do that, and sales of merchandise, which is limited as well. So this is how we got to the $167,139 in terms of what we're looking at to bring in as revenue for the upcoming year. That was a snapshot, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right. Well, there are no questions at this time.
Okay.
I want to thank those that sit on this task force. Your efforts are tremendous, and we've got a long way to go, most certainly.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
if I may.
Yeah.
Council may not have questions, but we do have a question that from the task force as well as from our department personnel, and I think we will be doing ourselves a disservice if we do not ask for further clarity and direction. We would like to know, when will the City Council make a decision on who will operate the Columbus Aquatic Center? Are we going to move forward with third-party management or not? Are we going to move forward with the Columbus Parks and Recreation Department or not? If, without having this information and making a decision to move forward, puts us in a very binding spot. And I think that the staff at the Columbus Aquatic Center, as well as myself as the department head, deserve some answers of how we're going to move forward.
Okay. All right. We have Councilor Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not sure what I was expecting. I just know this wasn't it. I kind of thought you were going to tell us the way this thing should be operated in order to make it functional for the constituents of the natatorium, to include either new personnel or show us what it would cost as a third party. I thought
I've done that before, Councilor.
Yes, sir. Let me finish, Dr. Worley. I thought we were going to hear some recommendations that you guys are garnering from the committee in terms of trying to identify alternative sources of raising some revenue, some type of partnership to help do that. I know you've given that, but since this has been put together, I guess, is this your recommendation of how we're going to operate it with, I mean, these two ladies, they can't keep doing that.
Oh, I concur.
So I guess what I'm confused about is we still have the same issues with money to be able to provide for this. I was hoping that we would start working our way towards some recommendations from you and from the group that would tell us this is not good, and I'm not telling you this. I would think that they would say this is not good enough. Mm-hmm. This is not what we want to see that natatorium provide in the way of services. Mm-hmm. You can't provide what I think they want. So I was hoping to see, here's where we have to get. Now let's try to work out a way to see if we can get there. We may have to make some concessions along the way, but other than telling us what we already knew, that we can't do it with existing staff, I'm not sure what this is.
Well, if I can respond, if I will.
Sure.
We brought back what was requested. That's number one. It was requested for us to bring back expenses year to date. and revenue year-to-date. We've done that. Last presentation, we brought back the task force as an update. The task force just got started.
I agree.
Initially, when the task force first got started, I stated here at council and said, it's going to take some time before a task force can get up and running and bring back some direction as to where this aquatic center should go. The task force is working hard. They meet on Mondays, with the exception of last Monday, but they've met 3 times in the month of January so far. But that's a long-term solution. The task force is not a short-term solution. I'm asking for a short-term solution.
Well, and I guess I'm probably the only one then, but I guess what I was looking for was, how are we going to function until we get some of the long-term solutions put in place? Because even if they identified a direction, if it involves fundraising or any kind of capital campaign or any type of endowment campaign, that's going to take a long time.
Absolutely.
So I get that. I guess I was looking for whether or not you think we have to reduce hours immediately in order to make it work, because you know what funding is available currently, and it's just not there. But I agree with you. There's no way that we can continue to operate and put just 2 of our Parks and Rec employees and say, hey, guess what? Your 50-hour-a-week job just turned into a 90-hour-a-week job. So I'm asking you for direction on what the stopgap is as we work towards some longer-term solutions.
And also, the last direction that I heard when everybody was here was we were going to stay with 89 hours and go figure out how to do it. So I think that's the rub, is if you expect them to operate 89 hours, how's that going to be paid for, because they don't have that in their budget?
Mayor, from my perspective, I agree somewhat, but I think that the recommendation I heard was we want to maintain the 89 hours. Mm-hmm. We need some input on how's the best way to be able to do that without going back, turning on the money machine, printing some more.
Right.
We can't operate at 89 hours right now. I mean, we just don't have the funding. So that's
what it could be a misunderstanding, that really what they want you to do is come back with a plan to cut to what the budget is right now and operate at what the budget is right now, and then if you can find additional funding, it'll be 89 hours. But I think that was a misunderstanding. I think there was some indication that we were getting direction, or the staff was getting direction, to go for 89 hours. But I think that the question in the air was, where's the money coming from? And James doesn't see it on his budget, so he's saying, I think today, what am I supposed to do, 89 hours or something less than 89 hours?
And I think all of council wants 2 things. One, to take some of the pressure off you and your folks. And number 2, to be able to provide this amazing facility for as many hours as necessary to be able to accommodate all the different constituencies that are using it. That's what we want to do. It's what we want to get to. But I don't have any idea on how we're going to do that right now.
Well, let us take another shot at it.
That's fine.
And come back with, I think I hear what you're looking for. So let us take another shot at it. And on the second Tuesday in February.
I was going to say, you need to do it quickly.
Yeah,
Again, I know it's late, but you need to do it quickly because, I mean, I'm not in the Parks and Rec business. I'm not in the swimming business. But I can hear there's 2 different directions coming from council. I mean, that's just what I hear, is that some councilors want you to find a way to do 89 hours and tell us where that money's coming from. And other councilors are saying, at least what I'm hearing is, the money's set, the budget's set, you can see what you got, figure out a way to work what you've got. And that's not 89 hours.
Right.
So the department head needs direction because he can't spend outside his budget. And if he does spend inside his budget, it is not going to be 89 hours. So.
Do you remember the night that all those people came here from the various? Okay,
absolutely.
That was the night that the Parks and Recreation Department presented what it would take to operate the Columbus Aquatic Center on the budget that we have, and that was one of the the recommendation was to cut the hours, and of course that was not well received. So that's still going to be my recommendation when I come back in February, if that is the direction I'm given to come back with a presentation.
What we'll come back with will be options. We'll tell you, what it's going to take for us to get through the end of this fiscal year with 89 hours, and that's probably going to be more money. And then we're going to tell you what we can do through the end of the fiscal year with what we have. And so that will probably mean less than 89 hours, but it's going to be what we can do through the end of the fiscal year with what we have and beef up the staff that we can do better with. We got to get them out of there or almost out of there and have it functional with appropriate staff. So we'll tell you 2 or 3 different stories.
I think you've already come back with that, but I mean, I'm fine. Council wants to hear it again. You can come on back again,
Yeah.
but I've seen that presentation twice, but that's just
Well,
me.
It's going to be what it's going to be, and then we can say it's either this
45 hours,
or this
89
or
hours.
something else. And of course, we'll do that through Director Worsley talking to the task force, and we need to hear from them as
Sure.
to what, and so they need, but what they're going to, just a second, what we'll bring back, we'll be bringing back feedback from the task force
Yeah.
in terms of getting through the end of the fiscal year.
My only concern is that there's a disaster looming, an operational disaster looming without direction and funding. And sending a policy directive to be open to satisfy the constituents for X, but providing no funding is a way to set our citizens up for great frustration. And so anyway, like I said, we've got several counselors in line. Let's hear from them. Maybe they'll provide some direction.
Yeah.
But we know, I think we know the presentation, but if y'all can find some money for 89 hours, knock yourself out. I know we had planned on, fundraising like Corda, but anybody who's been in fundraising, that takes 10 to 12 months, and that's if you got great fundraisers and you got people writing you $100,000, $200,000 checks. And that does not happen in 4 weeks. It doesn't happen in 8 weeks. It takes, seriously, months.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I
okay,
hear
let's
what you're-
tee it up. We got counselors. Go ahead, Counselor Barnes.
I know it. I missed the last 2 meetings, but I know at the first meeting, a lot of good ideas did come out of that, and I'd like to be brought up to snuff. That's exactly what, a lot of good ideas as far as fundraising, as far as reaching out to corporate sponsors. So I just need to be caught up to snuff on exactly where we are with that.
And Counselor Barnes also, again, maybe Brian and some others know, but I've done a lot of fundraising. You cannot fundraise from the private sector to go directly to public coffers. People will not give you money. I mean, that's called taxes. That's not called fundraising, right? And so if you're going to fundraise to benefit a public purpose, like Corda, you have to have a 501c3, you have to have a mission, you have to have a board, you have to have a professional fundraising plan where you know you're going to have 3 people that are going to each give you $250,000, 10 people that are going to give you $100,000 and so forth. And then you execute that plan, and it takes months. And then that builds you the principle, and then you live off the interest, which supplements, sort of like we have down at the Civic Center with, and there we had one donor who gave a lot of money, and it seeded something. We've also done it in Uptown with a parking deck, and that seeded some money. So you either need a major donor to seed money, or you need a months-long fundraising process to get an endowment to spend off the money to supplement the operation funds. So, but few people write checks for $200,000 to the city general fund unless they're called taxes. So anyway, Brian, you want to speak to that?
Yes, Madam Mayor. So just a quick update on what the task force has been doing for the last really month. And it's really, at this point, a discovery, trying to understand where and how we could raise money. And because, as you just stated, there's not a 501c3 that exists for us to be able to go to foundations or to corporations or to private citizens requesting money. In order for us to do that, we need to find a place for that to land in the first place. So I think what we have been doing, some progress we have made, is to identify a venue or a source or maybe a landing spot for these funding. In order for us to go out and find funds, we need to find a place for it to land. So just trying to navigate through those channels has been a challenge. But we also know that we can't just go and ask for money without finding a place for it to go. We have a couple of ideas we think that are potential and are promising for us right now, but it's going to take time. As you just stated, we need to find a place for that to land. I think the Sports Council might be one way for us to do that, We met with the community foundation last night, so we know there's some opportunities to go through that route as well. But at this juncture, we don't have a way to narrow that 400,000 gap in the next 4 weeks. Relative to the programs that we have considered, many great ideas, but those programs are going to take staff. They're going to take different types of partnerships with different organizations, whether it's the triathlon community or the hurricane community. And even at that, if you have these organizations that want to help, and they do want to help us with these programming, those programs won't generate that money instantly. It's going to take months to years before we realize the benefits from those programs that will, again, narrow that gap. But I do think there has been some progress made from the task force. If we could, accelerate the establishment of 501c3, we could then go out and come back to you and say, here is our fundraising plan, and this is where the money would pass through, and this is how we would be able to provide that money that could help narrow that gap. But in the 4 weeks we've been in existence as a task force, that's where we are right now. So I would think we could come back to you with maybe that fundraising plan, or at least the initial shell of a fundraising plan, perhaps at the next meeting. And I don't know, I'd have to ask Dr. Worsley if that would be appropriate with his design as well. But as far as Councilor Barnes, you think you wanted to know where the task force is doing, that's some of the progress we've made in the last few weeks.
That's great. I think that's helpful. James, how long can you go before you run out of money in this line item?
And I apologize. Let's see what slide it is. On the second slide that says year-to-date expenses, July through December, projected expenses, January through June, we are projected, and this is the issue, because we didn't spend as much in the first 6 months. We are on course with what we currently have without running out of money before year-end, June 30th.
At 89?
But the problem is it's current level of service with the two folks that you have here. That's not providing levels of service. That's the only reason that would happen. And I would hate to see these two individuals, as well as our part-time staff, to be without for this period of time.
Okay.
So we have the money to do that, but it's just no bar. There's nothing else that will happen. No programs would happen, and so we're actually doing a disservice to the community as well by not providing the services, by having the doors open.
Okay. I think that's helpful information. Councilor Thomas.
Dr. Worsley, I guess what I was looking for may be along some of the lines that Councilor Henderson was talking about. As I recall, there's about $650,000 in the budget for contracted services, and about $170,000 for utilities. Is that
right?
Those ballpark figures?
That's right.
And quite frankly, what I was looking for you to come back tonight to us to say, if you want to do 89 hours, then I'm going to have to move money in my budget from not fill a position in another part of Parks and Rec and move that over to hire somebody. I'm going to have to not send anybody to any more training and educational programs for the rest of the year and move that money over. And I'm going to have to do this, that, and the other specific kinds of things that could be done. It's not going to raise $800,000. I understand that. But I don't think, quite frankly, that it is our responsibility to get down in those weeds as counselors. Our responsibility is for you to come to us and say, this is what it's going to take. And just to have as the only option what it's going to take is cutting the hours to 45 hours doesn't do it for me. Okay? If we're going to do that, if that's the only solution, then I am going to get down in the weeds and see if there's not something I can find to make a recommendation to this council to help do some of the kinds of things that we want to see done. I don't know how, Holly, I don't know how you guys have been doing this. And my hat's off to you, because you have been doing a yeoman's job. And I understand that. And I also understand that we ought not ask you to do that any longer. Let's get to the weekend, and then next week y'all don't have to do that anymore, because we're going to have another solution. I don't see any other solutions coming to us. I was looking for you to come to us and say, we understand the concerns about hiring a third party, and so here's how we're going to deal with this. And I haven't heard any of that. And that's what I want to hear. I want our aquatic center to be the best aquatic center in the whole nation, okay? And I know that with the knowledge that you have, you as the director have, on how to run a Parks and Recreation Department, we can do that. And I know that we can work with this task